I strongly believe that the aim of any business is to make profit. A market is what basically determines the profitability of your business. There has to be a ready market for the product. Aside the early days, we have never been able to meet demand. The major indicator in this case has always been demand.
On today's episode of Understory Africa, we sit with the founder and managing director of Oyinbo Agro Allied Limited to explore the thinking, the systems, and decisions behind scaling a 200,000 capacity poultry operation in Nigeria. Abolaji Oguntoyinbo is building within one of the most volatile yet critical sectors in Nigeria's economy, agriculture. Through Oyinbo Agro Allied Limited, he has developed a poultry operation in southern Nigeria focused on one thing: creating consistency in an environment where outcomes are often unpredictable. Scaling from 600 million naira to over 2 billion naira in revenue, the business has prioritized operational control, particularly in feed production, to reduce exposure to market fluctuations and improve efficiency at scale. In a sector often defined by fragmentation, OAAL reflects what a more structured and investable model of agriculture can begin to look like. With experience spanning industry and advisory, from consulting for government agencies to mentoring at institutions such as MIT, Abolaji brings a disciplined, systems-driven approach to building. What would you say is one thing that needs to exist operationally before capital, serious capital, can come into business? Mr. Abolaji Oguntoyinbo, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for having us in your beautiful office.
The pleasure.
It was a whole ride getting here this morning.
Apologies.
No, not at all. And I'm sure we agreed for 10 a.m.
Yes,
we
we
made it in
did.
record time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. Okay, so our conversation today, we're leaving it open to as many things as we can touch on and explore, all particularly facing the agriculture industry and specifically the business of poultry in Nigeria. So this episode can come to somebody in the middle of the day. They're doing all different sorts of things. They could be taking a walk. They could be in the middle of work. They could be doing anything. So I just want us to touch on something that you feel is the most important that anybody watching can take away from this episode at the end of the day.
Okay. What would that be? So I think there's a myth about the poultry business. So I'd like to debunk the myth, which is it's not profitable or it's a high risk business. So just like every other business, I think just like every other business has their risk, poultry also has theirs, and then so I don't think poultry is for everybody. So if you don't know it, then don't do it. And for those that know it, then I'll always encourage them to keep doing it, because the poultry business is one business that I'm sure guarantees you at least 100% ROI in a year.
In a year.
Yeah. So
Should I say that's optimistic? Or is that
no, so I'm speaking facts.
okay?
Yeah.
So ideally,
Yeah.
every story has its beginnings. So let's go back to the very start, the early days. What did building this business look like?
Okay. So early days for me was rather early, far back as when I was an undergraduate in school. So I started with the fish pond. Okay, even before then. So my dad used to have like a small poultry in our house. So while my siblings were in secondary school, I was waiting for admission. So they were in university. I was waiting for my own admission
Okay.
so I was helping out. So we had maybe about 100 or 200 chickens, and so I was in charge of selling eggs. So the cash flow at the time was quite motivating. So, and then fortunately I got into university to study agriculture. So my first few classes, I just kind of knew that there were so many opportunities, and then I was going to be independent. And then, so in my fourth year, I set up a couple of fish ponds in my father's house. So that's where I started from. And then when I graduated, I started the poultry business. So I started, that was, so I started officially 2015, and I started with 5,000 birds, and then there were layer birds. It was a very challenging period, so it didn't go the way that I imagined or expected. And then, so I wasn't also fully involved. So at the time, I bought 5,000 points of lay birds. They were supposed to be points of lay birds, but they were spent. So for about 8 months, the birds were, I don't think I had like, so barely 30% of the birds were laying. So it was a complete loss. And then maybe after like 8 to 12 months, the birds stopped laying completely. So it was a total loss. So I sold it, sold all the birds, and then I took a break. And then I came back and I started with the broiler. And then I started with 3,000 birds. And then now we're here.
But did you ever know why the laying birds were not laying?
Yes, I did. I did. So it was mischief. So the person that purchased the point of lay birds for me actually bought me spent birds and then lied to me that they were point of lay birds.
This is so interesting because I feel like there's a lot of intricate, unique, factors to consider when you're running a business in Nigeria.
Of course.
Dishonesty is one of them.
A big part
So,
of it.
and this takes me to a question, like I always have this in the back of my mind, and just off the top of my head as we were talking, it came again to me. Most times when people are setting up their business models, it's, there are important things
Yeah.
from whatever it is that they see people doing outside the country, in economies that, a lot more stable. Did you ever try that and fail because you brought a model into a country that it wasn't formulated to function well in?
No. So I've always been indigenous in my practice, and then so like I always tell people, so we have over 200 million people in Nigeria, so you don't need to do so much. And then as for importing either business traditions or ideas, I think business does well if it's suited for the environment you're
Yeah.
in, and then I'm an agric man, so there's really not much to import as regards system. So maybe mechanization and things like that, yes. But so everything that I did at the start and everything that I do now is very indigenous to the Nigerian market or the African market, basically.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah. So I know unofficially the business or you as a farmer has been operating since before 2015, but 2015 was when you structured it much better as a business.
Yes.
So what happened in 2015?
so in 2015, I thought to pursue it, like make it like my primary source of income. So after school, I was still in between if I wanted to get a job, if I wanted to do this or do that. So I decided 2015 that I wanted to start it as my primary business. And then so because I had the prior experience growing up, which is my dad used to have a small farm, and then one thing that layer beds guarantee you is cash flow. So for me, I thought the easiest entry point was to go past the breeding stage, and that's why I went for the point of lay beds. So meaning that I just had to wait for like 2 weeks before the bed starts laying eggs. So I thought it was going to be like the safest and the easiest entrance for me. So I was going to buy the beds that had survived. I was not going to worry about losing birds while raising them and all of that. But unfortunately, I fell into wrong hands, and then that didn't work. So subsequently, I thought about it. So now I was more invested in it. So I thought about the best option, and then I put them side by side. So that's the egg business or the meat business. So obviously, I was never going to buy point of lay birds again. So I thought about it. If I'm going to raise my layer beds from DOC, tail chick, so it'll take me at least about 22 weeks. before they start to lay, and then gradually, and then they'll lay for me for maybe another 60 something months, So the
Okay.
first 20 to 24 months, I just keep spending money on them. And then I compared it to the chicken. That's the broiler. So it would take me 6 weeks to raise them. And then, so comparing it to that, I probably would have done maybe like 3 cycles before my point of lay beds, my
Sure.
layer beds are ready to lay, and then I just thought it was, and then there was that period too was a thriving period for processed chicken in Nigeria. Because
Okay.
growing up, we used to we had to buy imported or smuggled chicken from Cotonou. So at the time, Nigerians were springing up a few companies, processing chicken locally. So because if you would remember, with the Cotonou chickens, you had like exclusive parts. It could be like maybe you just wanted drumsticks or you want just
Yeah.
thighs, and then so that was the big challenge for the African farmer, because these people had alternative use for the other chicken parts. That's the back, and so they could afford to dissect it, but we didn't have that alternative. Yeah. So, but fortunately, some people before me came up with this idea where they would cut a whole chicken into four. So it's called quarter cut or
Yeah.
cut four, and then
Okay.
that way. And then there was also the awareness, where people began to understand that it was safer to consume locally made chickens as against imported.
Important.
So it
Yeah.
was just, I think it was timing too for me. So by the
Okay.
time I came in, I think the market was ready for me. So
I like that you recognize that because that often plays a big role.
Oh, yeah.
Much more than we like to
Yeah.
confess. It does. But through the process of trying to scale the business, especially, was it in 2015 that you started with about 3,000 birds?
no. So 2015, I started with the layers. So I did it for about maybe 14 months, and then I paused. And then 2018, I started with the broilers. So then the capital was a problem. So I started with 3,000. So then I had one pen house. The pen house was built for the layer beds. So I took out the crates. I sold the crates. I took out the battery cages where I had the layer bed. So I sold them. So that was how I got some capital. And then I think my dad also supported me. So I was able to start the broiler with 3,000 capacity in that same pen house. So I did that. I did that for a while, and then 2020, COVID happened.
And another break.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a break. So it was like a boom period, because a lot of people were not able to deal as much, and then then they had this they had occupations that were allowed to, because I'm in the food industry. So then I had this friend, was an older friend, he worked in a bank, so he was majorly at home. So he had funds that were not, and then he offered me the funds, so that's what I now used. So over the time I think that was just before COVID, and then COVID happened too. So it was a boom. So by 2021, by the end of COVID, I'd built 2 more pens
Wow.
in that period. So that is why I said to you that poultry is one thing that guarantees you, broiler rearing actually, and processing is one thing that guarantees you at least 25%.
But
At least.
beyond, no, I do understand you. Beyond the deceits, the difficulty you faced in the deceits, and all of the small things, like what are the, should I say, technical difficulties or skill gap difficulties affected the business when we were trying to scale?
Okay, so we're not over that yet. So we still face a lot of gaps in the skill area, because one, I think a lot of people are not, a lot of people in the agri space, I'm talking undergraduates, they're not particularly employable.
Oh,
So, and not to say they're not smart or intelligent people, but I think the the school system doesn't make it easy for them to, because most of the things that they get to do are theoretical. And then for agriculture in general, it's more of a practical. So they have the book knowledge, so the application is usually a problem.
But in your time when you went to school in the country, was it the same?
Yeah, it was the same.
So it was, the help with home, the help from home, running the business already at
Yeah,
home.
so
That
so
was your
I had
differentiation.
so it wasn't particularly straightforward for me. So I'll tell you for free, 70% of the things that I know in poultry, I learned from experience, burning my hands and things like that. Yeah, and then so because it's a business, and then I want to take it as far as I can go. So I had to invest everything I had in acquiring the knowledge that I needed to succeed. So most of the things that I know, other than the residual things that I taught in school, so I learned off my own experience. So it wasn't like so I don't think so it's not your medicine, it's not your engineering, so most of these things you just have to be very observant, and then I'm also very big on data keeping, data recording, and then because that's how you get better at it.
Yeah.
So it's majorly experience.
And I think I've heard this several times that in industries like this that are not, that are more traditional than a lot of other industries, data keeping is the issue.
Yeah.
We don't have enough data, nationally
Yeah.
to inform decisions.
Yeah.
So most times you guys are starting from the ground up. How was that when you started? Were you trying to refer back to the records of other people, much bigger farms, or were you just trying to work on your own and build your own information?
So I'll tell you, most of the things that I've done in isolation. So I like to see myself as a nonconformist, and then so I have this ideology that it was an illiterate idea that worked out that people get to learn in school.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So because I have things at my disposal, I'm able to try stuff. So where the record keeping comes in good for me is that with birds, I've done different things, and for everything that I've done, I've kept the record. And then I've tried them maybe like twice or three times just to be sure it is good. So most of the things I never had a reference point, but I do have so many big players that I admire and I look up to.
Yeah.
But I never tried to
Copy and paste.
copy. No, I never did. So I just the original, stay true to my reality, because so many things are it's so hard to copy because there are different things that affect the performance of your beds. So as little as your topography,
Yeah.
so a pen house across a hill is different from a pen house on a flat land,
Yeah.
so the vegetation around you, the type of water that you have on your farm and you feed to your beds, so just different things. So that is why for me, it has to be tailored. It's not a one size fits all. So but then if I do get other ideas, I explore it and then see how it can serve me, but I rarely or never do copy and paste. Yeah. So
We're talking a bit on the difficulties you faced when we're trying to scale,
Yeah.
and you were hitting a bit on the employability status of professional agriculture graduates.
Yeah.
Can we still expand on that a bit?
yeah. So I don't know if there's so much to say so that it doesn't sound like I'm talking down on anyone. But what I think it's a government problem. It's an educational problem because, like I said, most of the things that I know. So when I get somewhere and then I'm like, oh, I'm this, I studied this, people assume that most of these things I learned in school, but I didn't, So I think I was fortunate to be able to set up my own farm and then learn, through my own experience. Not a lot of people will get that chance. They'll still go with what they are taught in school. So I think there should be a lot more practicality in agriculture in school. So you'll probably have a vet doctor that probably doesn't, hasn't done so much with animals in real time. You have same for an animal scientist, same for a soil scientist, so and then so if you're going to employ them, they're coming in with a certificate. I have a first class, I have this, and then you just expect so much. Do you understand? So they can't even identify, like some things that are basic. Because you find some guys on the farm that have never been to school, and they're very, very good. And then it comes from years of experience. So if there's a way they can incorporate, tangible experience, at least for the basics, for the school. So I know that I remember that while we were in school, we used to have what we call the farm year, where basically was either you were planting.
I think that was IT during IT.
So for agriculture, then we used to call it farm year. So it's equivalent to other people doing IT in their third year. So that's what it was, but it wasn't very. So I think it was just a waste of time, at least for me, not to talk down on anybody still. So, but I think that still is one of the main challenges, because if you don't have the right people, you're never going to get the right result. And then it also cuts across other areas of agriculture. So that is why, Nigeria probably has one of the poorest yields, even in crop cultivation, So because people just do what they think they know. And there's no serious reference point that points out to you like, oh, you're not doing it right. And then, we're so into subsistence farming in Nigeria. So food, basically, agriculture is basically for food. And that's why you find politicians, trying to use it as I don't know what to call it, when they're campaigning, we'll create jobs, we'll give farmers this, you understand? So it's more like charity in Nigeria, just, okay, you always find them, they want to give farmers fertilizers, so the farmer really doesn't know how to apply the fertilizer, you understand? So it's just, like my mother would say, native knowledge, how their forefathers used to farm and all those kind of things. So they've not improved over time. For the records, Nigeria has, one of the poorest yields in the world for all their crops. So maybe if they pay more attention, things will get better, because our yield per tonnage, about per hectare of land, is extremely poor. And then that's because of a gap in knowledge, which also transcends to mechanization and all those kind of things. So that's it. So I think a lot should be done in the institutions. Maybe even start from like secondary school. Let people do more practical agriculture. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move a bit into the business proper.
Yeah.
You've grown to over 2 billion naira in revenue. What can you say in practical terms have driven this kind of growth for you?
Yeah, so okay, let's start God first, and then ambition, and then so now let's talk in business terms. So when I said earlier that we have over 200 million people in Nigeria, so that tells you that all you need, well, let me not say all you need. So for someone like me, I don't even serve 1% of that population. So that's to tell you the opportunities there. And then, it's food. So if you remember, I think it was in social studies, the 3 basic needs of man: food, clothing, shelter.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So chicken is not something you consume today and then you wait another 2 years or do you understand, before you consume it. So, and then it takes time. you need about, depending on how well you know how to do it, between 5 to 7 weeks to raise it. So one person cannot meet the needs of.
Service that
Do
market.
you understand?
Yeah.
So there's a constant demand for it, and it would only get better. So that's one protein that you'll find in every restaurant.
So what I'm getting from this is competition is not.
So yes, is there enough competition here locally in Nigeria? No, I don't think there is. So I think we compete more with the guys that smuggle from outside. Yeah,
What is the difference though?
the difference between what we make locally and
Yeah. And the demand for what comes
no,
internationally.
so it's not like there's a demand for the smuggled chicken. It's a shortage in supply
Okay.
here. So it just what it means is that we don't have enough farmers. We don't have enough poultry farmers.
Yeah.
So and then there's a gap. So people need to feed. So it goes beyond I only consume local chicken. So if you don't have local chicken available, then you go for the next thing that's available. So that's
And this was so funny to me because the other day when we were driving down to your farm at Ekpe, almost all the lands in the area were all pens, poultry farms. It was,
but they were all empty.
I had never seen anything like that before. So to hear that the market is still underserviced, it's still quite funny to me.
Oh yeah. So
Because
that's
then if it's like that in just Ekpe, how about Ogun State farmers? How about farmers on the mainland? How about farmers in other states in the country?
okay. So you don't have we don't have so many farmers. So that's a given. And then there's a huge gap. And then I think the federal government just had like a deal with China to come into Nigeria and then help produce eggs and chickens because there's a big gap there. So why don't we have that many farmers enough for us? So I think one there's the knowledge gap, which makes people prioritize the risk in the business more than the profit that could be made. The capital to run it. So the capital now goes a long way, because there's also distribution, there's competition, there is storage, because for every agricultural produce, the most valuable part of the value chain is the end product. That's the processed part of it, So a breeder, or like an outgrower, that's the farmer that just grows the broiler. Do you understand? Doesn't make as much money as the processor that buys the broiler off him and then slaughters and then bags it and then So ideally, it would have been better if the farmer could control the value chain. Do you understand? So now some farmers are discouraged because now they spend their time, spend their resource, suffer their losses in mortality and all those kind of things, and then one processor or an off-taker, like they call them, will just come, underprice them such that it's whatever it is they're making is so insignificant to them, and then the processor goes and then takes the bulk of the money off the guy. So that one puts up quite a number of farmers, and then the capital too. So it's really, really expensive to raise birds in Nigeria today. And then another problem is the weather. Yeah. So we have quite a number of seasonal farmers as well that they're not able to process. So they sell live birds, and then the live birds market now is not doing so well because now there's the Nigerian processed chicken.
Yeah.
So it's practically like you're buying live birds too. So people tilt towards that more. And then so you have people raising birds for the seasons, Easter, Christmas, and all those kind of things. At least people still buy the live birds, to give as gifts and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but then I think so this for me the solution is reliance on the government. So not for them to give out money or do anything, just make policies, price regulation, such that the farmer is guaranteed that if I do this, there's a fixed amount. So not one processor would come and then just underprice them and then, take away all their profits. And this is like a general concern
Cross board.
across agricultural commodities, not just poultry.
I'm actually learning something new today because I used to be of the thought that it's more productive, or it enables things grow faster when everybody comes in within the value chain and they're doing their own thing. But from what you're saying now, there's a lot of, because price regulation is an issue.
Yeah.
Anybody can just come and try to cheat anybody. But I used to feel like if you're a farmer, rear your birds, and if you control the logistics, transports, or handle the distribution, if you control retail, do the retail sales. But it seems like it doesn't apply within this industry.
In an ideal world, it will apply, where if everything is defined, so the farmer knows, if I raise birds, I'm going to be making, I'm guaranteed maybe 200 naira per kg. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And then from every kg of bird that I buy, this is going to be my markup. Everything is clearly defined. So it's doable that way. But in a situation where there is no price control, and then a lot of people in agric are not. I don't want to call them disadvantaged. So because picture what a farmer would look like to you, like growing up, how they depicted farmers. They're like local people and all those kind of things. Yeah. So one guy comes. So let's take, for instance, now let's talk perishables. Okay, so a farmer harvests tomatoes, bountiful harvest, everything is looking good. He doesn't have storage to keep it. And then one guy comes and then looks down on this guy and then he tells the guy, I'll take all of this for this amount.
And that it's going to go bad if you don't sell it.
Do you understand? So it's still the same thing. So in the case of the chickens, the longer you hold on to them, the more money you have to spend, because you have to keep feeding them. And then if you stop feeding them, they start to lose weight. And then you're making your revenue is tied to the weight.
And then one more thing, in a previous conversation with you, when you talked about the fact that chicken is priced in its weight, and you try to control, when we talked about controlling loss, and you try to talk about how you eradicated that problem by handling, the logistics. So what am I trying to say here is, in an ideal world where price is regulated and we have different players coming in within the value chain and doing their own thing. So let's say the farmer gives the birds let's say live birds, for example, gives the birds to the logistics person, and he goes, and in transit, we lose a couple of tons in weights because of the distance. Yeah. How does that conversation, because then you've paid a certain price, and he cannot hand it over to, let's say, wholesalers or retailers for a reasonable price because weight has been lost.
Okay. So birds in transit are, so like what you described now, so it's about the numbers.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So whoever is going to move birds for you is moving them by the numbers. So, you're moving 2,000 birds for me. Do you understand? So what that person has to deliver to you or to your destination is 2,000 birds. Do you understand? So you're not measuring your flock by weight for the guy that is moving it.
Okay.
So you're using numbers. So this is, so I have 2,000 birds, I have 5,000 birds, do this. And then, so the agreement is that person has to deliver
that number of
birds. So, but birds do lose weight in transit. So that is why, so like for us here, we also have outgrowers that raise birds for us, and then we buy from them. So we have like a map. We never exceed certain areas in Oyo State. So it's usually Lagos, Ogun, and Ibadan and some other places. And then that's because of the transit time. So the longer it takes, so for us now in that situation, we're processors. So we need the weight of the birds.
Yeah.
Because, when you go to the market now, you're buying per kg. So that's why we're particular about distance. So it doesn't take a long time for the birds to get to where they'll be slaughtered so they don't lose weight.
Okay. I'm thinking when you were a business doing 50 million or 100 million or 200 million in revenue, what were those, stepping stone points before you were able to, expand to a higher margin, higher...
So to be honest, one thing that I'm sure really drove the business is quality.
Quality.
Yeah. So I focused more on quality, and then I had like a very, it was a small niche, So, but with those people, they always got value for their money.
Yeah.
The chickens were very big because I was particular about it at the time. So I would say at that time, that's how I thought it should be done, but I wasn't making so much money in profit, But then, so my customers at the time were guaranteed, freshly processed chicken, very clean, and then this was a coincidence. I'm going to be very honest. So we bagged them in 10 kg. So I had a production manager then that would always put like extra. So for every 10 kg bag you buy from me, then you were probably getting like 11 kg.
What was that harming you in any way?
At the time, yes, it was, but I didn't really know. So it wasn't so much that it killed the business. So when I found out, I stopped it. But then it worked out good for me because now the customers wanted to get from Oyinbo because it was guaranteed that if you buy from Oyinbo, you're getting extra, either in grams or in kg. So they will in turn resell it. And then the guys they were selling to liked the quality. So even so when I found out and we corrected that part where we're giving them in excess, we already had customers already through them that would go to the cold rooms and then be like, oh, we want Oyinbo chicken, we want Oyinbo chicken. So the quality was what drove the business, made it grow because in turn, the quality brought about so much demand, and then that's something that we still struggle with till today. So the demand just started coming. So we started from, okay, let's buy live birds, so there was a not so good feedback. Yeah, because there was a lack of consistency in the product. So the way we raise our beds are different from the way other farmers raise their beds. So it's something that you can tell.
Yeah.
So, but then the demand was so much. So we came up with an idea where we differentiated the product. So they were all still Oyinbo chicken, but our own chicken that we raised and processed ourselves, we bagged them in white, in yellow.
Okay.
And then the one that we bought from processors, we branded them in white, and then so it was like, okay, don't worry, just this was standing pending.
Did people know the difference though? Were there times that you'd hear
a few of the customers? So because of the way I started, so I had like a particular set of customers that I was serving. So they're more like partners, like friends now. So it was easy to communicate with them. Do you understand? So we practically grew together. So with those ones, I could always tell them like, okay, this is what it is. But then for the new customers that came, so it wasn't like the other chicken was bad. The ones branded white, it's not like anything is wrong with it. But then there's a difference.
Yeah.
And then so for other people, we were not saying that. So whatever you get, if it was in white, if it was in yellow, there was no explanation. So it was just like different branding. So, but for us in-house, we knew why it was like that.
And how have your margins changed as you've grown over the years?
Okay. So the margins have been impressive. And I would attribute that to growth in the sense that over time we've controlled a good part of the value chain. So for poultry, the only part of the value chain that we do not control is the hatchery. So we still outsource our day-old chicks. So
Okay.
other than that, so because we've been able to control most part of the value chain, it has made the business very profitable. So with the most significance coming from the feed. Yeah, because like they always say, the feed accounts for 70% of the total cost of raising the birds. So because we're able to make our own feed, and then our feed is performing very, very well. So the standard in the industry is 3.5 kg of feed to get at least like an average weight of 2 kg. So for us and our feed, just to get the exact numbers, so we use about 3.2 kg.
Oh, to get that same weight.
Yes, and then so it's coming very, very handy for the business. And then of course the cost of production is way lesser than the selling price of commercial feed. So we cut some money off the feed, and then the price of chicken is the same, regardless if you buy commercial feed or you make it yourself. So what we save in feed production becomes parts of our margins, and then because of the volume that we do, so we get to save a good amount of money. So say like about 5,000 naira on a bag. Yeah, and then for every cycle we do about 8,400 or 9,000 bags. So you can do the math. So that has also been very good. And then coupled with the result, so our FCR is very, very good. So that's why we're able to have 3.2 kg of feed consumed to get at least like 2 kg. So we spend less on feed production, and then we feed our birds less to get the desired results. So we're winning on two fronts. So that's so I would say honestly that has been the major difference for us as regards profitability. So there's also the processing as well, and then the distribution. So because obviously processed chicken is more expensive than the live birds, and then it also created another market for us, which is what should I call them in this case so that people can understand? So we call them OFALs, so but then OFALs typically refers to, the internals, like your intestines, but then for us, that also includes the head and the feet, the gizzard and all those kind of things. So there's like a huge market for that, even bigger than the chicken itself, so, that has also helped us as well.
Did you know this before 2015, or was something you learned along the way that you had to maximize all of the parts?
Yeah, so it was something I learned along the way. So like I said, I started with layers.
Yeah.
So when I started with the 3,000 broilers, so all I had was just one pen house. So then we'll sell live birds, we'll sell to market women and all of that, and then I think my first batch was 3,000, And then after I sold my first batch, I was able to restock 5,000.
Oh.
So it became harder to sell as live birds because the more birds you have, like I was saying, one of the challenges, you can't keep them because if you keep them, you have to keep feeding them. So
Yeah.
we had to look for ways to process them, make it easier to sell such that we don't incur more expense on the
Yeah.
birds. So then I started doing third party processing. So that is, I look for processing plants and then I would move the birds there. So they'll help me slaughter, bag, and then I'll look for people to buy.
Was this because of a lack of the capacity to do that yourself?
At the time, oh yeah. So those were my humble beginnings. So we're just starting. So there was no, so like I said, the only thing that we had then was just the pen house.
Yeah.
So we're just raising the beds and then we we'll process it elsewhere and then we'll go to Ijora market. So and then they would underprice us and we'll just sell anyways because one, we didn't have storage, no cold storage, and then it was time bound. So I think we had 48 hours at the processing plant. So that includes slaughtering, and so you had to move your product out of that cold room. If not, you were expected to pay penalties daily and all that. So we didn't have any logistics, nothing. So then we'd look for a co-meat van, and then we'll just charter and then move the product to Ijora. And then because even at the time we were not even branded
Yeah.
because we couldn't register with NAFDAC, we didn't have anything at the time. So it was just plain white sack. And then so once they see us like that, they knew we were upcoming guys and then they would underprice us and then, but so I knew from the first time I went to the processing plant to slaughter the birds, I knew I had to have one. I knew I had to have one. So then the other guy that I told you about, came in during COVID, so expanded. So then there was much more demand because quite a number of farms shut down at the time.
Okay.
So there was demand, and then we were pushing and pushing. So the good thing about broiler is, so I'll use us as a benchmark. So one thing I have always done is if our cost of production, whatever our cost of production was, we needed to make at least 20% profit. So and then there have been situations where we've made as much as 50%, 60% as profits.
Consistently or every once in a while?
So we have a peak periods.
Yeah.
So say for instance, Christmas. So the price of chicken goes up. Easter, it goes
Okay.
up. And then, so this might sound pretty funny. So when the price of feed goes up, it also works in our own advantage because we have a feed mill. So what it means is that a lot of farmers, back off, hoping that, and usually these prices are driven by price of commodities like maize and soya.
Yeah.
So but then thanks to the government in the last couple of months, the price of maize especially has been stable.
Yeah.
So but then it was always fluctuating. It was so periods like that, there will be huge demand and very limited supply. So then the prices would be a lot better. So and then so these are some of the things that I picked up while I was doing it. So then maybe I'll share a story with you.
I'd love to hear.
Okay. So I had like my worst experience in poultry business. I had this huge mortality on the farm, ridiculous number. Now I'm not going to share it with you. So yeah, so I don't scare people away.
Yeah.
So but then and then I thought about how I was going to recover. So I'm just trying to buttress what years of experience has done for me. So when this happened, we slaughtered what was left. We sold. So we're supposed to restock, and I waited. So my team, they were wondering like, oh, we should restock. Customers are asking for products and all of that. I waited. And then that's because over time, I know when the price of the DOC drops and when it goes up. So fortunately for me, I experienced that loss towards the fasting period. So usually at the fasting period, the price of
the checks.
Drops when it starts. Like the first week, it drops. So I waited. It got to that time. I restocked. So just waiting alone saved me about 30-something million.
Wow.
In cost of purchase. So I thought about it too. I had to find other ways to recover from this loss. So we control our feed mill.
Yeah.
So because we control our feed mill, and then so I thought about what can we play with as regards this feed such that we still get the same result and then we don't have to spend as much. You know? So I'm putting a disclaimer out. I don't compromise on quality, but I'm just trying to emphasize on how experience has helped me thus far.
Yeah.
So one of the expensive ingredients that we use for our feed is soya oil. So for our soya oil, I think we use about, in value, I think it's 30-something million watts to make the feed for a batch.
Wow.
So I was like, you know what, let's take out the soya oil. And then the feed mill, the feed production guy was like, this, that. I'm like, what exactly do you think soya oil does? And then he goes like, I'm like, okay. So basically it boosts the energy in the maize.
Okay.
You understand? So it's important. And then the only difference is it reduces the FCR by a tiny margin. So what it means is that if we take out the soya oil, instead of our birds consuming 3.2 kg to attain 2 kg minimum, do you understand? Then they might probably need to consume 3.5 kg, which is industry standard.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I took that out. And then we made the feed like that. And then the birds did exactly how we expected it to do. So already, just from those two things that I held back, I had saved about 60-something million.
Wow.
And then so that's an example of things that I learned. And then also it had also backfired on me too before, because I always felt like birds were cheaper on Christmas, like DOC birds.
Yeah.
So I waited until around Christmas to restock, only to find out that it was about the most expensive period to buy DOC.
But I always thought it was like that. I thought things were always more expensive during the festivities.
So now, I'm talking DOC, dill chicks.
Yeah, so it's different for that.
Yeah, so because DOC, now you're buying DOC on, so this is how the hatchery operates. So if it's towards Easter, then the price of DOC goes up.
Okay.
Because they know that there's going to be a huge demand for chickens.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So you have a lot of farmers trying to stock. So the hatchery wants to make money off it, and then they up the price. Same thing for Christmas. So from October, they're like, okay, these people are probably buying towards Christmas. So the price goes up.
Okay.
So basically on Christmas Day, do you understand? I don't expect it to be expensive, because whoever is buying it on that day can't have it ready until sometime in February.
True.
But unfortunately, it was about one of the most expensive on that day.
Was there any perceived external factor that must have caused that?
So I don't run an hatchery, so I really don't. So whatever it is I'm saying now is common sense. So after the rush for chicken during Christmas period and all of that, it's still chicken. People are still going to demand for chicken. So there's going to be a gap.
Yeah.
Do you understand? After the whole yellow tide season, so people are still going to consume chicken. So whoever is buying at Christmas will probably be the first set of people that have chicken available in the new year. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So there'll be less competition, high demand for them.
True.
So that's common sense. I don't know. So maybe people that operate hatcheries would know why it works like that. So, but then it's been a journey of experience, and like I said, data collection. So always going back. Oh, this was successful. What did we do right? So
So when I listen a lot to what you say, I'm getting, so from the early days, like any typical business, there was the issue with, managing losses. There's the issue with being underpriced and all of those things that you faced. So all of those initial investments that came into the business in those early stages, when did you eventually break even and start becoming profitable?
So we're keeping it 100, right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this. Every year that I've done chicken, that I've raised chickens, I've never looked up my books for profits or losses. So I know it sounds very unprofessional, but this is how I say it. I started with XY amount of birds. So as long as I can end that year
Yeah.
with that same amount, do you understand? Then I know the year was good.
Okay.
I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm not, but I know for sure that the business is very profitable. And I know not just because of our books. The truth that I know is that January 1st, 2021, we had 50 million in our company account at the time. So whatever it is that we made from 2021 till now was from that 50 million.
Wow.
Did you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, so I'm more focused on the business, perfecting it, growing it, and then so it's not to say the details are not there, but that's not my focus. I just want to focus on my own strengths, which is the technical part of the business.
Yeah.
So the people that worry about the accounts and the profitability are there, but I'm certain that we don't owe, and then we're able to expand aggressively, if I'll say. So our expansion has been aggressive.
Okay, so I'd really like to go into feed, but before we do that, let's talk about every single time, or all of the monumental times where you identified in the business that you needed more funding, you needed to scale, what those indicators were, and how you went about accessing the capital that you needed.
Okay. So I think the major indicator in this case has always been demand. So I think aside the early days, we have never been able to meet demand. So we have a love and hate relationship with our customers. So they would always complain and lament. Or some have even said, "Oh, why don't you people close up? You'll come today, you have, tomorrow you don't have." So it's not a good thing, but then it's good for the business, because what it shows is that our supply is far below our demand. So it makes us very profitable. So in the quest to meet this demand, do you understand? It brings about the need for us to expand, and that's why I said before now that our expansion has been aggressive, and then even though we're still not able to meet up with that demand, we still keep trying to do that. So I think the major indicator has always been demand, and then I think with the feed too came opportunity. So there are very few feed producers, livestock feed producers in Nigeria, and then most of them are not indigenous.
Okay.
Yes, so you have the Chinese, you have the Saudis, you have the Dutch, you have so I think There are just about one or two indigenous feed makers. So I think you have livestock, you have animal care, just a couple of them. But
Yeah.
it's a small industry, and then I think because the competition isn't so stiff, I think they could give more value for what they charge. you know. And then because we wanted to scale up aggressively, so we thought about how to reduce our costs, and then so we came about our feed formula, and then so because I make the feed, I know the performance, and I compare it to what is attainable in the market. So I imagine what they're making off these feeds and all that. And then, and I'm thinking, like, if the small me can come up with this easily, this people can probably even do better.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, okay, so there's an opportunity. So, and then so that's another part that I want to pursue aggressively. So especially because we don't have so many of them. So maybe we can also have the first movers advantage in that.
So can we categorically say that that was, the push that you needed to go into to take control of that part of the value chain?
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's it. That's it. So it was probably, I'll say it was strictly profit driven. It was an opportunity. There was a gap in the market that we could fill.
And then when you took control of that, let's say, what are three things that began to immediately change in the way that the business was coming together?
So one first was the profit.
Yeah.
Another one was the manpower. We needed machineries. We needed things like that. So I think those are about. And then of course we needed more capital as well to drive that.
And I think when we first started the conversation, we buttressed on the fact that in this industry, it's quite capital intensive.
Oh yes, it is.
So when we've gone past the family and friends fundraising stage like in the early days, how did you get more structure in fundraising?
Okay, so I had quite a handful of help from banks. So I don't know if I'm supposed to mention their names, but then I had particularly, like, two banks particularly were very, very helpful in the growth. And then so even though they were reluctant, so the help came in the space of the chicken processing, which was less, risky, because the way we put it together was like, we had to get outgrowers, and then we're going to buy live chickens and then process it, which we did a part of it, but then most of the funds we put it into. So I took a risk with the money, because anything could have gone wrong, and then I think we're all happy now because, we're all fine. Nothing went wrong, and then the business is only just getting better.
But the first time you ever had to, take financing from one of your structured, maybe trusted partners that you've now begun to use when the business began to have more structure, what would you say was the most attractive thing about your operations to them that made them want to finance?
So I think they'll be the best position to answer that. But if I were to answer for them, I'd say it was the turnover. Yeah, so it was the turnover, because I think a lot of people do not have an idea of how profitable agri can be if you do it right. So I would say it was the turnover.
Okay.
It was the turnover.
So would you say that now controlling the feed production is one of the reasons that growth is a bit more predictable for you?
Yes, so that's going to be part of it, But then I think also my experience also counts for something, and then the market share that I have now. It makes it predictable for partners, because they're sure, because conveniently we do about, on an average, like 50 to 60 tons in sales of processed chicken every month, and then this is not our demand, this is what we're able to come up with, so it could have been,
Yeah, it could be way more.
and then there's a whole lot of market that we haven't explored at all. So we don't do retail, at least not yet. We don't supply supermarkets. We don't supply hotels. We don't, so, and then that's a big market.
And this is all part of in the plan, right?
To expand to that point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So as much as I would love for us to cater to these people too, I have to be realistic. So I told you I have a love and hate relationship with my customers. So I can't even meet
that demand.
Yeah.
So
if I onboard new people, it would only make it worse. So I'm trying to make money in terms of not trying to stay up at night from pressure. So,
but what exactly would you say are those pressure points that have made it impossible for you to service the demand of the existing customer base, and is also stopping you from transitioning into all of these other areas that you'd like to reach?
Yeah, so basically everything is going to some way, somehow still going to be centered around capital, or so capital for expansion. So like I said, it's capital intensive.
Yeah.
And then so I believe that would always get bigger. I don't ever see us getting to the point where we're able to meet all of our demand, but then I see us getting very big, probably the goal for Oyinbo Agro Allied is to be like to be the biggest in Africa. So I realize that even if we do achieve that, we still would not be able to meet the demand, so we're trying to be strategic in our expansion, such that we can minimize capital, and then utilize whatever it is at our disposal.
So I think you've spoken for financially what it would require to expand the business. What about technically?
Yeah, so that's also a very key part of it. So what we are also doing is I think last year we had something with NYC, so where we're supposed to get like fresh out of school graduates, that studied at Greek. So we're hoping we can get a bunch of them that are good, and then we can train them. And then they can, in turn, be like our staffs, help us drive the business forward. And then, so basically what we plan to do in a nutshell is more of training. And then, of course, we'll also recruit people that we feel are capable for it, But then I still think there's a shortage in that space.
When we spoke earlier about the employability status of agricultural graduates, I wanted to ask you a question about maybe a noble goal to that effect, but I had a feeling that we'll circle back to it, and here we are. So let's talk a bit more. Let's talk a bit about fragmentation. So when we spoke earlier, I think maybe my third question, you asked me to picture what a typical farmer would look like to me, and I've always believed, but I feel like majority of people do not understand the kind of systems and processes and automations that have to go into this thing to make to run it at a certain scale that you'd like to run. If not, it just is subsistence and it's local. So I would say there's always been this view that the real challenge is in the capital. There is capital available. It's what does the business look like? What is it valued at? What can the turnover be? Those kind of questions. When you answer those kind of questions, capital will come. I feel like it's how fragmented the system, especially in this industry, it's how fragmented the system is that, sort of makes capital to withdraw? What do
Say
you
that
feel
again.
about? I feel like it's the fragmentation in the system that sometimes withholds capital from being deployed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's very valid. But I strongly believe they go hand in hand. So I think the system of agriculture in Nigeria as a whole is very poor. I think there is almost no attention into building a proper system that works. So, and then, so take for instance now. So, like I said, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anybody. So, I think one of the most funded industries in Nigeria by the government is agriculture. So, you turn on the TV, you heard, oh, you're hearing federal governments just did XYZ for rice, did this, did that. So they're pushing out all this capital, but then they're getting next to no return because there is no system to utilize that capital. Do you understand? So give a farmer all the money in the world. Do you understand? So if he's not doing it right, do you understand?
Yeah.
It's not going to be profitable. It's not going to be profitable. And then so that's why I said earlier, poultry is not for everybody.
Yeah.
However, there are parts of the value chain that every and anybody can came to. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it could be consulting, it could be cold storage, it could be distribution, it could, do you understand? There's so many. It's food. So, and like a lot of people say, with food you can hardly go wrong.
Yeah.
Especially because it's not cooked food. So it's not like people will come and say, "Oh, your food is not sweet" or something. So it's just there in your face. But like I tell people, whatever you give to Agric is what's going to give back to you. So the moment you don't treat agriculture the way you treat oil and gas, or the way you treat finance, or the way you treat tech, do you understand? It's not going to give you that return.
Yeah.
So, and like with poultry now, like I told you, poultry is broiler is guaranteed to give you about minimum of 20% returns, and then we're talking in 8 weeks. Do you understand what I mean? So how many 8 weeks do you get in a year? So conveniently, you'll get 5. So that's 40.
Yeah.
So imagine if you make 20% 5 times in a year. Easy, you get your 100% back. I don't know if you get the math
I
in
do.
it. Do you understand? So it's very doable, but then it requires a lot of systems. There's some serious technical know-how to it.
Is there anything that you've identified that is missing, that you've always maybe advocated for to be incorporated into this industry?
And so in what area? So one of the things that I always solicit for is access to funds, because poultry farmers have a very huge challenge accessing funds because of the risk attached to the business. So, and then that's why, and then I understand, so the banks to the private entities, they're set up to make profit. So it's only normal for them to assess their risk and determine what they want to do. But then I think they'll be missing out on a lot, because the opportunities there are a lot. So maybe one thing that I advocate for the most is agric extension. So agric extension have trained extension officers that can help the farmers get better.
Yeah.
Teach them how to the best practice for whatever it is they're doing, and then also let them see the opportunities in what they're not doing. Just do that. So I think one of the ways that banks or financial institutions can also maximize their profit is if they invest in that space. and then they do monitoring and evaluation, so it's risky because it's not being done well.
Yeah. So you said something, I picked up something just now when you said extension officers, the need for them to sensitize farmers on the opportunities that are available, but they're missing out on.
Of course.
So that would take me to this issue of, I know that, so when we were speaking earlier, you said something about not even servicing like 1% of the entire population that's in demand for chicken. But do you think that sometimes there are too many people that are doing the same things?
Yeah, so it's a problem when you have too many people trying to serve. So if the people that are trying to serve are way more than the people doing the same thing, I don't know if I'm making sense. So the thing with agric is this: it has a gestation period.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So agric is not you have to wait. So if you're cultivating maize, you have to wait. If you're whatever it is you're doing in agriculture, you have to wait. Do you understand? So there's always a gap. So this farmer that is so big and does yada yada yada, he gets to the point where he also has to wait.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And then because you have a growing population that would constantly demand food. Do you understand? So there would always be demand. And that is why I believe you would never find, I don't think a farmer can be the richest man in the world. So I don't think any farmer can be your Elon Musk or can be your Bill Gates, because one of the things that have made those people is the amount of people they cater to. So I don't know about one farmer in Nigeria that can cater to 1 million people, whereby 1 million people rely on just one farmer for their source of food. It's practically impossible.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you understand what I'm saying? The potentials are endless.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And that's why on paper, the government would use it as, we're going to create X, Y amount of employment using agriculture. Because it's just there. You would always have people that want food. So there are some people that eat rice every day. So one farmer cannot provide that. So imagine the population in this local government. Food cuts across everybody. The rich, the poor, the wealthy. Do you understand? So there would always be demand for it. So you can't have too many people doing it.
So I'm from the South.
All
So fish farming is really big in the South. So I'm saying fish farming.
Is it fish farming or fish harvesting?
Both. I think both. So we have people that do catfish ponds, and we have people that still, catch fish from the sea and sell on arrival to the markets.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that those markets are saturated. I'm saying that they are serviced, even if not well serviced. There are people that are touching on those areas. So we have that. And we also have the poultry farm. We have crop farms like cassava.
In the South.
Generally now, I'm speaking generally now. We have all of these things. But do you think that there is any area within the industry, within the value chain that needs more, any specific one? Because I know you've hit on that a lot, that the opportunities are limitless. But is there any one specific one that you'd like to speak on?
I don't, speaking generally is speaking on one. So in my head, I don't think a lot of agriculture goes on in the South.
You don't?
No, I don't. So I think if we're going by regions, they probably have the least poultries. They have so I think the strength of the South is its marine, which is not a bad thing. So it's geography. So people are blessed based on resources, and then so it's only okay for the country to grow. It's best if the South, focuses on their marine, utilizes it, maximizes, and then sells people that don't have that resource. And then just like the people from the north, focus on cultivation, and then they send it to the rest of the. So I don't think any region is going to be self-sufficient. That's why we're a country. So we're going to always be interdependent. And that's diversity, and then that will grow our economy. So, but then for every facet of agriculture in Nigeria needs in its proper alignment, in its proper direction. I think we all have to start seeing agriculture for what it is. It's not just survival. It's not just for food. So agriculture is at least is a source of raw materials for at least 50% of all the industries in the world. And then if you want to take it further, so one industry that intertwines with all the industries in the world is agriculture. So even if you're talking oil and gas, so you need people to work the machines, to do the exploration. So for these people to function effectively, they need to feed.
Yeah.
And it's agriculture that will feed them.
Yeah.
So now you're talking in the space of clothing and textile. Your cuttings and all those things is from agriculture. You're talking about you're talking woodwork, carpentry, things like that, chemicals in the agro, in chemical, agric is just everywhere. So, and then we're not able to maximize it because the typical Nigerian sees agriculture like, make we chop. That food no day, do you understand? So, and then that's why even our export in agriculture is very poor. So because we plant majorly for consumption, and then we don't, we have not industrialized it. So if the goal for agriculture is, if we see agriculture like a major source of raw material, and then we plant with the hope of harvesting for raw material, so whatever passes the raw material test is more than good for consumption. So you'll be killing two birds with one stone. Do you understand? And then you're getting better value, better yield, and then you find out that even your price of the inflation rate, especially with food, will drop. Because if you plant correctly, so the farmer that cultivates an acre of land and is harvesting maybe like 2 tons of maize, as against 7 tons. So whatever he has expended on that land, he wants to recoup it from his harvest of 2 tons, which is far behind as compared to what he should have harvested normally. So the price goes up, but then if he does it right, and then he gets what he's supposed to get from the land, then the price drops. Because even if he cuts down his price, he's still going to be making more money because he has more to sell.
I was going to ask a question about what's ideal. You have answered it, so I just wanted to hit on that.
Oh, okay.
About what you think a well-running interconnected system should look like. And I think I got it from when you said it's one that everything is interdependent on each other.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really beautiful. I love how you captured that. So let's talk a bit on what you've had to learn along the way in managing people that you never envisioned.
Okay. That's a good question. So because of the space that I am, so I get to work with different people. So we get to work with like professionals. So these are your white collar, well educated, So I think in our company, I think they'll probably make about 20 to 30% of our workforce, and then the rest of them are your blue collar guys. So I never imagined it would be so hard to manage people, and then, so I'm not a big advocate for formal education, so I'm more of a experience, common sense, but then when I deal with these people, I understand the importance of formal education sometimes, because they're extremely hard to manage, and so I don't even know what to say about them, so I don't know if I'll say I fear them, because they play key roles, and then they're the majority.
Yeah.
So they can just decide to down tools on you over something that you probably think is intangible. So for something as little as they want an extra 1,000 or 2,000, either on their wages or on salary, and then they can just decide to down tools on the day of work. So it's not like they would have communicated it to you before. So, they have that mentality of, okay, we'll wait till we have to do this, then they won't have a choice.
But don't you think that's like a divide sort of in the way that employers relate with employees?
Yeah. So it is, if I understand you correctly. But then, these people are social beings, and then our orientations, our exposures, they're different. So as much as it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
So we need each other. Do you understand? So just the same way the less privileged people look up to people that are doing okay, So a less privileged person doesn't have a problem coming to ask you for money every day. Do you understand? Because their boundaries are different. Do you understand? And then, so if you find yourself in an industry where you have lots of them, it's a cross that you have to carry, because they're as important as, they're so important in the business that you cannot. So because even the professionals, the learned ones, won't do the things that they would do. Do you understand? So you won't have your HR going into the penthouse and the cleaning pool. You won't have your HR going there by 2 a.m. in the morning. They have to pick beds.
Yeah.
And then that's the heart of the business, And then they can just decide one day and just be like, oh, okay, this and this, and then they'll just decide to down tools, rather than, okay, you know what, let's appoint one of us, let's speak to the management and all of that. So, but what we try to do is we because we've experienced these things, so we try to engage them beforehand, so just in case anything is brewing. So it's not like there's so much of stratification. So it's not like a strata level. So yes, there's hierarchy, but then there's still that communal. You're part of the team. We all work together. You're important, But then it's a very big challenge. It's a very big challenge for us.
I assumed it would be. I honestly did assume. So let's talk a bit about. So I know a time, and I don't know if that we're still living in that time, honestly. But I know a time where you'd be laughed at for wanting to go into agriculture. Do you think that we've gone past that as a nation?
As a nation, honest truth, no. So for the record, I didn't set out to do agri.
Oh.
No. I never. So I did agri based on the situation and consequences. So
what would you say is one thing, or even a few things that need to exist operationally before serious capital can come into business?
So I'll say the market.
Yeah.
So there has to be a ready market for the product. So regardless of it being a Greek, I strongly believe that the aim of any business is to make profit. And then in our own case, all the processes ends up in one thing, the product itself. So, and then whatever expansion we're aiming for, it still boils down to the product. So, a market is what basically determines the profitability of your business. So for this expansion and any other expansion, I think demand should be what drives the expansion. Yeah. So for me, it's market.
And I believe that to consistently have, accessed capital, accessed funds in all of these 11 years
Yeah.
of your operations, you must have, had some strong or firm standing relationships along the way in terms of financiers or partners. Can we talk a bit about
Oh yeah.
that?
Yeah. So I've had a few institutions, individuals. But let me talk precisely about Tribal, which
Okay.
which has been a very strong support, even though it's rather recent, But then I think I gravitate towards them for various reasons. One of which is the ease of accessing funds.
Yeah.
So it's pretty straightforward. It's the duration of the process is as swift as possible. So that means they come in handy, and then so far they've been reliable. And then so far another thing that I like them for is the rate and the flexibility. So the rate is very healthy for the business. So it doesn't in any way harm the business. It actually helps the business grow, and then for that I'm very grateful. There's also the flexibility, so flexibility in the place of moratorium, where it's not depending on the purpose, so they accommodate, okay, because this is what you want to use it for, so we understand that you need this bit of time to get it running before you start
Yeah.
repaying. I think in that regard too, they've been fantastic. And then so because I think this part for me is the most important part. So it's like it's more like an exclusive relationship, where I can speak directly to the people that matter. So it's not like going to a commercial bank and then you're speaking to the bank manager and then it has to go through so many processes before
Yeah.
it gets approved. So now it just it makes it feel more, I don't know if family is the right word, but then it just makes it a lot easier, like the person, like Tribal can identify with the challenges, the goals, the ambitions. And so it just feels like we're working together,
Yeah.
as against so I think there's like an exclusivity about it, that just makes it easier to dream and to take bolder steps, knowing that okay, Tribal is there. They understand what we're trying to do. They understand it's in phases. And then when the next phase comes up, even without prior notice, I know that I can always rely on them to, help me push through that stage in little or no time. So I think they've been like, I don't know, so that I don't want to sound like I'm just praising it, but then as factual as I can be, I think
Yeah.
they've been a good part of the story so far, So even though they came at the later stage, but then so far, they've done enough to, earn a page in the book,
Yeah.
a chapter in the book. So, and then I'm looking forward to bigger and better things as
But
time goes on. Yeah.
if I may, realistically and
Yeah.
openly, how much has the partnership with Tribal done?
So I think we've done 2 transactions, and then I don't think there was any of the two that lasted 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
So it was good, and then so I also appreciate the trust that they had in us, because there were not so many paperwork. There were not so many back and forths, So yes, we had things that we had to give for them to verify and do their due
Yeah.
diligence, and then everything was timely and up until it happened, at least the first time, I wasn't sure if it was going to be that straightforward, but then
Yeah.
I'm glad it did. So for that, I'm grateful, and then I'm looking forward to bigger and better things.
Nice. So I'm loving the conversation so far, but every good thing has to come to an end.
Of
So we
course.
will be wrapping up shortly. And one question that's just coming to the back of my mind now is, if we had this conversation in the next, say, 3 to 5 years, what would success look like for the business?
Okay. So we're going to have this conversation in the next 3 years. I'm sure we will. God preserve our lives. So in the next 3 years, success for us is growth. So growth, measurable growth, and then we should be on the Nigerian stock market. So that's our 3 year goal. So fortunately, it coincided with the timeline that you gave. So rather than go with the five,
Yeah,
I'll go with
the
the
three.
with a three.
Yeah.
So we have a 3 year target for the business where we hope to be on the Nigerian stock market. So, and that means we'll have way more stakeholders. We'll be way bigger than we are now. So that for us is going to be success.
I'd love to see it happen. When you think about, the long term, do you see yourself in the business? Do you see it as something you hold indefinitely, or something that eventually transitions through acquisition, or say expansion, or something else entirely?
Yeah. So like I said, in 3 years we hope to be on the Nigerian stock market. So it's not going to be as a privately owned business anymore.
Okay.
And then so for me, Oyinbo Agro is a legacy. And then having learned from people before me, I plan for the business to outlive me, not through my descendants, my children or siblings or anything, So I'd rather allow people do what will give them joy, and then open up the business to people that can actually drive it forward, people that are interested in it, and not people that would have to inherit it. So however this would come, whatever form is going to come, you know, I know that because of our dreams and aspirations, I know it's beyond one person. So we're definitely going to have hopefully the right people, dedicated people that share the same vision and dreams as us to partner with us, either in the form of equity or shares or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I don't see myself being the principal officer for a very long time, So I hope that
Okay.
answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
It's been a great couple of hours sitting with you here
Same
today
here.
and being in your beautiful, beautiful office. So just the other day, we were in your, how many acre farm again?
10.
10-acre poultry farm in Ekpe. It was very beautiful.
Thank you.
I'd never seen anything like that in my life. Like
You're from the
the
south.
scale,
You guys
yeah.
don't have so much of that. That's
We are
just a
doing fish
joke.
farming.
Yeah. You're doing fish harvesting, actually.
But it was so, but let me just, if there's anything that I know you as the farmer, I know you as the business owner, the managing director of OAAL, is there any part of you that is yet to be known? Like, you've done a lot of work, but it's yet to be known.
Okay, so yeah, I think so. At least the part of me that I know for now, So maybe I'll still discover, some parts in the future. So so there's a teacher part of me, So I was raised by a teacher. My mom is a teacher, so I think I kind of got that from her. So I like to share my knowledge and then knowledge experience. So I do I do consulting as well, so I'm able to help other farmers do better. I'm able to
Yeah.
help other businesses do better. I'm able to help, all of this in the agri space though.
Yeah.
So I'm able to come up with policies that can help the government, both the federal, the state, local level. I'm able to help NGOs, consulates, and banks and things like that. So I do M&E, monitoring and evaluation for agriculture. So if I'm to encompass it, so I think I have a vast knowledge and experience in agriculture in totality, not just poultry. That comes in handy for whoever, and then so the economics of agri itself. So I'm able to help an agri business become more profitable than it was, So I think for that's in the space of agri, because I do other things too on the side, but then I don't know if I'm supposed to. So
Sure.
I do real estate as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but then and then I was able to diversify, from the proceeds I make from agriculture.
Oh, that's
Yeah. So
impressive.
it's so that's more. So as much as I don't want to aspire to inspire people, I'm not saying do this or do that, So, but then it's more like a motivation, So it's agric is a fantastic what I call it occupation or business, whatever it is, and then I would encourage people to go into it as long as they know about it. I would discourage people jumping into it just because they think it's profitable. I think people should work based on their strengths and then figure out the part of the value chain of agriculture that best suits them. And then I can guarantee that with proper setup and systems, every part of the value chain is lucrative. So identify your strengths, think of creative ways to maximize it, and then, and I wish you all the best.
Okay, so just as agreed, in 3 years, see you on the Nigerian stock market.
By God's grace.
And hopefully before then, see you again some other place,
By God's
championing
grace.
conversations about, changing the industry and seeing how we can make the most of the places that we are and the opportunities that we've been exposed to.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you
Very
so
happy to do that.
much for a
Pleasure is mine.
great day today in your office.
Yeah, thank you.
I enjoyed myself. I hope you did enjoy the conversation too.
Oh, yes, I did.
Thank you
I
so
did.
much.
I did. Thank
We'll
you.
see you soon.
Yes, ma'am.